Hey, sixth graders, welcome to our first attempt at a Hilchot Sfirat HaOmer video. You have the translated packets in front of you. They are yellow. It's from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, which we discussed at the very beginning of the year, written by Rav Shlomo Gansfried, and it's a shortened version of the Shulchan Aruch, which was written by Rav Yosef Karo, a much, much longer book of halacha. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch was meant to be very user-friendly, in small bites, little halacha organized by topic. And so, since we are now in the time between Pesach and Shavuot, where we count Sfirat HaOmer, every day we count 49 days from Pesach until Shavuot, we are going to learn the halachot of this time of the year through the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Now, you can follow along in the English packet. I'm going to read from the original Hebrew for two reasons. Number one, I find that the integrity of our learning is strengthened by reading it in the original. And secondly, I want to show you how far you guys have come in your translation abilities, your ability to pick out a shoresh and understand a word and put together concepts. Instead of stoppers here, we have commas. You guys have really come a long way, and I want to show you that you have. So let's get started. Please open the packet to page 1 of Hilchot Sfirat HaOmer. Now, just a reminder, in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, as well as in the larger Shulchan Aruch, topics are divided. They have headers, they have chapter names. For example, this one is called Hilchot Sfirat HaOmer V'Yemes HaSfira, the halachot, the laws of Sfirat HaOmer, and the days of Sfira, how to count it and how we behave during this time. But each chapter also has what we call a siman. Remember, siman was the chapter number. So this one is siman kuf chaf, which you know is gematria for 120. And additionally, in each chapter, in each siman, there are subcategories or subtopics, and those are what we call se'ifim. A se'if is a subtopic. So here, in this siman, in siman kuf chaf, we have Yud Aleph Se'ifim. Yud Aleph is 11. So there will be 11 subcategories or 11 subchapters of this siman of Hilchot Sfirat HaOmer. Today we're going to do just Se'if Aleph, the first one, because it's longish and it's got quite a few halachot in it. But in later days we might do 2 or 3 in a single video if they're shorter and a little bit simpler. So let's get started with Se'if Aleph. Se'if Aleph. Belel Sheni Shel Pesach. On the second night of Pesach, Matchilin, we begin Lispor Sfirat HaOmer, to count Sfirat HaOmer. Visofrin, and we count Me'umad. The shoresh here is Amad, Ayin Mem Dalid, which you know means standing. So one should stand when they are counting Sfirat HaOmer. So far we have the when of when we begin counting Sfira, and we have part of the how our body is supposed to be when we count Sfira, standing. Ha-mitzvah hu lispor techef. The mitzvah is to count. Techef means immediately. The mitzvah is to count immediately b'hatchalat halayla, at the start of the night. So halachic nighttime, we haven't discussed yet halachic times, but I do have a short subunit on halachic times, and hopefully maybe we'll get to that before the end of the year. What we know from the Jewish calendar is the Jewish day, the Jewish calendar date always starts at night. And how do we define that in halacha? It's what we call achar tzeit hakochavim. After tzeit, like yatsa, the emergence, when it comes out of the kochavim, the stars. So after nightfall is considered when at least 3 stars can be seen in the sky. This is a concept you might be used to with Havdalah, Motzei Shabbat. So the mitzvah is to count at night, and it's best, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch tells us, to count techef b'hatchalat halayla, immediately at the beginning of the night. So as early as possible in what's considered halachic nighttime. That's the best way to do it. B'diavad. But if you can't do it the best way, which remember we said was something called lechatchila. Let me see if I can write it here for you. right? Lechatchila, just to remind you of the term, lechat. I'm slow writing, but this is cool. Lechatchila. Usually my handwriting isn't this messy, right? Lechatchila, which is the best way, the optimal way to do a mitzvah, coming from the same shorish as lehatchil, to start, right? The best way to do this mitzvah is immediately at night. Oy, don't judge my handwriting. Okay? The best way to do it is at night, standing right away. But busy Eved, if you can't do it the best way, which is immediately with nightfall, then the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch tells us you can still do the mitzvah. It's not the best way to do the mitzvah, but it's still acceptable. So, what is the b'diavad, or the b'diavad way of doing the mitzvah? Zmana, the time to do this mitzvah, zman shalah, the zman of the mitzvah, is kol halayla, any time at night. You can still do the mitzvah any time at night. Now, I know some of you are jumping ahead and wondering about, well, what about the next day? Hold on. You can still say it at nighttime with a bracha anytime during the night. And the night in halachic times is from nightfall, 3 stars in the sky, until sunrise. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you realize, oh shoot, I forgot to say Sefira, you can get out of bed, stand up, and say it with a bracha. Even though it's not teichef, it's not immediately at the beginning of the night, but it's still during the nighttime, and you can still do it. That is b'diavad way of doing the mitzvah. Continuing, Beveit HaKnesset, in the shul, Bilele Shabbat v'Yom Tov, on the nights of Shabbat, so Friday night, and any Yom Tov night, which would mean the end days of Pesach, really is what we're talking about. Sofrin la'achar kiddush, we count after Kiddush, okay? Meaning we push it off a little bit. Why? Aren't we supposed to count immediately as soon as nightfall comes? Why are we doing something else, i.e. saying Kiddush for Friday night before we count Sefira? So there's a good reason. Kedei, so that lehakdim kedushat hayom. What's the shorish of lehakdim? Kuf daled mem, kodem, early. To bring in the kedusha of Shabbat, of Shabbos, early. We want to give kadimus, primary importance to the holiness of Shabbos. So the way that we show the holiness of Shabbos is by granting it primacy, by giving it like first slot over the mitzvah of Sfirat HaOmer. And similarly, in the opposite direction, what about on Saturday night? Ubemotzei Shabbat v'Yom Tov. But when Shabbos is ending, or when Yom Tov, the second days of Pesach, are ending, what do? Sofrin, we count Sefira kodem Havdalah, before we say Havdalah. Before we end Shabbos on Saturday night, or before we end Yom Tov, we count Sefira. We push off saying Havdalah. Why? Kedei la'acher yitziat hayom. In order to la'acher, to delay, like achar means after, to delay the exiting of the kedusha of the yom, of Shabbos. We want to delay Shabbos. So on Friday afternoon, we want Shabbos to come first before Sefira because it's holy. But on Saturday night, we don't want Shabbos to leave yet. So we delay saying Havdalah by counting Sefira first. Now this only applies to Shabbos and Yom Tov. So the only Yom Tov it applies to is the end days of Pesach, where we've already started counting Sefira, because we started counting when? On the second night of Pesach, and on every Friday night that occurs during the 7 weeks of Sefira. Okay, so that was slightly complicated. The basic understanding is anytime we have a holy day like Shabbos or a holiday, we want to make sure that the holy day is stretched out as long as possible in relation to Sefira. So we make it come before Sefira on Erev Shabbos or on Friday night, and we push it off till after Sefira on Motzei Shabbos. That's your rule of thumb. That's what they do in the shul. Finishing up Seif Aleph. Ukeshachal Yom Tov ha'acharon b'motzei Shabbat. And what about the situation? It didn't happen this year, but sometimes the end days, the last day of Pesach, will fall out on Motzei Shabbat. right? So when you're going straight from Saturday night, the end of Shabbos, into holiday, into the end days of Pesach, right? We had that at the beginning of Pesach this year, but this is talking about the end days of Pesach. When that happens, and the last day of Pesach comes immediately after Shabbos, She'omrim, what happens in that scenario? We say, She'omrim kiddush v'havdalah al kos echad. In that case, we have a very unique version of Kiddush, where we say Kiddush for the holiday at the same time that we say Havdalah for Shabbos, which is leaving, right? Shabbos is leaving, Kiddush is coming. So if we go according to this principle of, well, we want to say Sefira before Havdalah, but after Kiddush, what do we do in this weird scenario where they're happening at the same time? You can't say Sefira both before and after. What do you do in this unique scenario where Motzei Shabbos goes right into Chag? So what do? Sofrin gam kein kodem. In this scenario, you also count before you say Havdalah / Kiddush, Kedei la'acheret ha'havdalah, to push off Havdalah another few moments, to keep Shabbos going a few more minutes. This is the one time where you would say Sefira before Kiddush. Normally, we wait to say Sefira after Kiddush. This is the one time where it's Kiddush of Yom Tov that happens to fall out immediately after Shabbos. It's not a scenario that shows up all the time, but you can see that it's something that the writers of halachic svarim, of halachic works, had to deal with, because they saw that there might have been this weird contradiction between wanting to start Kiddush first but push off Havdalah. What about when they come together? So the case does exist, and in the rare case that it does, we now know that you count first to push off the end of the first Kedusha of Shabbos. All right, here's what you guys are going to be doing now. Now that we have read this seif, I would like you to please answer the questions 1 through 6 on page 1. Shouldn't be too challenging. I have a feeling you guys are going to do just fine with this. And I will go over them in a few moments. So please take a moment, pause the recording, answer these questions. You can refer back to earlier in the video. You can also refer to your English, which you have in front of you. And I will see you in a moment. Okay. And we're back. Let's take a look at how you did on these 6 questions. I had to go to a different app to type in the answers, but here we are going. Question 1. From which day of Pesach does the mitzvah of counting the Omer begin? From the second day of Pesach. Now, in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, he didn't specify what that means, whether you're in Israel or outside of Israel, so I just added on a little bit there to remind you. That would mean, the second night of Pesach would mean Seder number 2 if you live outside of Israel, but if you live in Israel, it would actually be the first night of Chol Hamoed, because they only keep one Seder. 2, one should count the Omer standing up, right? Me'umad. Number 3, the mitzvah is to count immediately after the start of nightfall, which in Hebrew is called Seita Kochavim, or the emergence of stars in the sky. 4, if one did not count at this time, one may count any time during the night. Halachic night goes until dawn, until the earliest parts of what we can technically call day. What do we do if you didn't count at all during the night? Stay tuned for Seif Bet. We'll get to that tomorrow. Question 5. On Leilei Shabbat v'Yom Tov, on the nights of Shabbos and holidays, when do we count Sefira and why? We count it after Kiddush, to mention the holiness of Shabbos or the holiday first before doing a different mitzvah. And on Motzei Shabbos and Yom Tov, when do we count Sefira and why? Before Havdalah, to keep the holiness of Shabbos and a holiday going for a few moments longer. All right. Please make sure that you are writing good notes in your packets, because there will be an activity or an assessment to do after we're done learning all of Hilchot Sfiras HaOmer from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. When we're done learning this siman, you will have some kind of an assessment. I'm not going to call it a quiz. I'll explain more about it later, but it will be open notes. So take a deep breath. If you have good notes here, you've got this. And you can always come back and re-listen to the videos. Sometimes what I like to do when I'm listening to recordings of classes or lectures that I've already heard once is I like to listen to them on double speed sometimes just to get a reminder, and it might make my voice sound kind of funny, but hopefully it will still be intelligible. All right, that's it for halacha today. Have a good one.